All right. We're going to get started. Bless you. It is 7 o'clock. Call the meeting to order. Our first item is our flag salute. Oops. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Roll call. Mr. Pye.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bollenbacher, she's not online, is she?
No.
And Mr. Chandler is absent. Mr. Choate?
I'm here online, Jim. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, so thank you. Yep.
Sure.
Ms. Compatello?
Here.
Mr. Hof?
Here.
Mr. Oliverio?
Here.
Ms. Bukalnik?
Here.
Mayor Perry? Here. Solicitor Corbel?
I'm here.
Engineer Keenan? Here. Director Tedesco? Here. Chief is not with us, and myself, we do have a quorum.
Great. All right, we have the consent agenda on the OneDrive for all council and mayor to review. We have the council meeting minutes from September 24th and also the bill list from October 9th. Looking for a motion to approve the October 9th, 2025 consent agenda pending bill list approval by the borough president, manager, and treasurer.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Hof,
Second.
Mr. Choate, any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue appearing on today's agenda. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Council has the option to respond or not at the end of the address. The solicitor is our assigned timekeeper. Please state your name and physical address for the record. One addendum to this is if anybody is speaking on 52 Bradford Avenue, there will be time for public comments during that hearing, and we have a court reporter here for that. So if you're going to be speaking about that, just hold the comments. All right. Thank you. Good. All right, Greg. It's on the agenda. Wait, that's not on the agenda.
It's about the conservatorship.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, good.
Anyway, last week I sent you an email about concerns about joining the Tricog Land Bank, and some of you were kind enough to respond, so I thank you very much for that. One key point in my email was that Crafton Council wrote to here. Let me start over. One key point in my email was Crafton Council would please pause on joining the land bank for at least 1 year, and I presented several points in my email about that. Our situation now is that the Tricog Land Bank Board meets tonight to consider new members, and that Crafton is among those applicants. If approved, we will be presented with an intergovernmental agreement that would formalize our membership and bind us to their rules. So my question is this: are we legally obligated to sign the intergovernmental agreement, and can council lawfully decline to sign without penalty or exposure? So for accuracy and transparency, could please provide a clear answer for
Not yet. Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I'll hold my time for follow-up.
Is it?
I'm not responding to that. I have to analyze that question. I can't do that on the fly. Greg, I apologize, but I'm not prepared to do that.
So here's my follow-up: is this council willing to hold off on signing or putting through any type of agreement until you get word from Steve on that and until the public hears Steve's answer. I mean,
Well, anything else? Because my job is to ask the council how to respond to it, so. Okay, all right, so council, 2 months ago, we approved this was in early August, we approved the tri-cog to move forward after the presentation. And does anybody have an interest in waiting for the intergovernmental agreement or changing that motion that was approved for the tri-cog? Or have any discussion?
Have any motion on this on the agenda tonight?
Yeah, I'm confused how this relates to the
Well, I'm just,
conservatorship.
yeah. Yeah,
That aside, I don't have any change in my feelings on it. I mean, 2 months ago, good presentation, very on board with everything they said, so my feelings have not changed.
agreed. I voted for it and I'm sticking with that.
all right. Anybody else in the room? Richard?
To follow up Greg's question, my name is Richard Dixon, 1761 Crafton Boulevard. My question, and we're not just locked in to the tri-cog. We are still able to go in our old direction as well, right? As far as I remember correctly,
Yeah. Well,
that we
go
were
ahead, yeah.
it wasn't just one way or the other. That's my only question.
That's it? Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Yeah, I can clarify that. Yes, I mean, we're able to do all of the things that we're doing currently. In fact, that's the idea behind it, is using every tool in the toolbox. Right now, we're using conservatorship, we use code enforcement, we use sheriff sale. Well, typically the school board will use sheriff sale because they're a much larger taxing entity. So, and more of their funding comes from that. So they tend to take things to sheriff sale before we have to. But there's weaknesses in those things. For example, when you take things to a sheriff sale, those properties are still encumbered with all their debt, which is why land bank exists. Because the land bank's able to go in, purchase it, and sell it to somebody without the debt incurred. Just like any property in the borough can be bought by anybody at any time. You know, you can have people from Crafton buy it, you can have people from Los Angeles buy it, you can have people from outside of the country buy properties. And that's, just a natural, it's just a natural thing. So we are able to do all the things we have. And in fact, even if we give the land bank a list of properties to consider, they do have the ability to take requests from people and nonprofits, but in their history, that has not happened one time. Municipalities are the only ones who make recommendations, and get, properties that are bought and sold through the land bank. So we're able, in fact, we expect to still do all of those things. And as we move through those strategies, if we find a lot of success with one over the other, then we can decide what to do moving forward. We do have options to get out of the land bank in any given year, just like any contract. It takes time. You have to do it 120 days or 90 days or 60 days in advance. And we have to notify them that we're going to do that, but that can be done in any given year. And that's the idea behind this, is that we're using every tool in the toolbox to try to eliminate blight in Crafton as much as possible.
All right, anybody else? All right, anybody else online, please raise your hand. Okay. All right, President's report. So we are in the middle of the pain now with the construction. We do have a lot of construction going on Steuben, Warren Street, Broadhead Street, and it's just the beginning, unfortunately. Fortunately, in the end, it will be nice, but patience is going to be the key. There's going to be noise, dirt, trucks moving through everywhere. So it's patience, and that's how we have to fix streets and put the sewers in. So just an understanding of that. Mayor's report.
We have a lot going on tonight, so I will just remind everybody about the school and more focus over there and more enforcement. So in the afternoons, if you can avoid it, so that you don't have to stop when the school buses are loading. Same thing in the morning. Also, we have talked about the fact that, just because you don't get stopped if you have an infraction, if they're able to get your plate, you might get a citation in the mail. So that's it for me tonight.
Great. All right, solicitors report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under my report this evening is the appeal on the 52 Bradford Avenue tree removal. So with that, I will call to order the hearing on the appeal filed by Megan Fante with respect to the assessment made by the borough, if you will, the fine $10,000 to replace the tree that was removed at 52 Bradford Avenue. Ms. Fante is the property owner, the landlord. First, I just wanted to run through the process. This is an appeal filed by Ms. Fante. We will set the exhibits into the record. I will do that by reading them. Ms. Fante will then be able to present her case. And then the borough has the opportunity to present its case. At that point, you'll open up the floor for public comment. If anybody held their comment from earlier, you can come up, identify yourself, and make your comment. It will be recorded by the court reporter. It will be part of the record that if this matter is proceeds to another court, then it will be in that record and reviewed by judge. And then lastly, we'll close the hearing, and council, we can discuss how you'd like to proceed with respect to considering this matter and making a decision. There is no specific time frame for council to make a decision in the statute or the ordinance. It's as expeditiously as possible. So I know that we have another meeting in 2 weeks, and that would certainly meet the criteria if we wanted to have an executive session following the meeting to deliberate, talk about it, and you guys can make a decision and vote that at the next meeting. We could also go and vote after our executive session tonight if we recess the meeting, but it's totally up to you all. So with that, I'll ask the court reporter, if you may, if you could, swear in any witnesses and members of the public that wish to comment during tonight's public hearing. So for the borough, I don't anticipate calling any witnesses, but we may. So Mr. Tedesco, arborist, and Mr. Price, but I would like the three of you to offer yourselves and to be sworn in. And then Ms. Fante, I believe, is on Zoom. Ms. Fante is on Zoom.
Yes, can you promote her to a panelist? Yeah.
Steve,
Then
are
we
you,
can-
Steve, are you able to give a little bit of context, especially for the public, around what happened? Because I think just like a quick summary.
Sure. Back in August, Ms. Fonte was cited by the borough. There's a tree, a public street in the tree lawn along Bradford Avenue that was removed. And in the borough, if you are removing a public tree, you have to apply for a permit from the Shade Tree Commission. That did not occur. This summary is based on the documents and admissions by everybody. I'm not trying to put anything into the evidence except at this point. We issued a notice of violation to the property owner, Ms. Fonte, and there was a response. Then I believe the manager and Mr. Tedesco, in consultation with the arborist, reviewed the matter. Under our ordinance, you can be fined up to $1,000 for removing a tree without a permit, and the ordinance also requires us to levy an additional penalty equal to the value of the tree. And so that was reviewed by our arborist, and there was a number, and I believe it was higher than what, a little bit higher than what we landed on, but the borough landed on $10,000 and communicated that decision to Ms. Fonte, who subsequently appealed that decision as is permitted under the ordinance. And that appeal comes to Borough Council. And Borough Council has three options in hearing the appeal. They can approve the appeal and reject the penalty. This appeal is on the penalty. It is not on the liability side, I will say. Council can deny the appeal and let the $10,000 penalty stand. Or thirdly, council can deny the appeal, or I'm sorry, I'll say approve the appeal and choose a different penalty amount. Those are the options for council tonight. And that's the matter in a nutshell. And so Ms. Fonte has the ability to put whatever she wants to in evidence, whether that's testimony or documentation. The borough will do the same, and then council will deliberate and make a decision probably by no later than the next council meeting, which will be 2 weeks from today. Good.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Sure, of course. Okay. So Ms. Fonte and borough potential witnesses, if you could please follow the
Go in there.
you don't have to stand, but you should raise your hand, I think, and the reporter will issue swearing you.
Anyone expected to testify, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give will be true and full to the best of your knowledge and ability?
I do, I do.
I do.
I notice nobody in the public raised their hand. Is that true? Nobody in the public is here to make a comment then? Okay, thank you.
Wait, or the,
Yes, you. Okay,
Depends on what's said.
okay.
Well, then you should
Raise
probably,
your hand.
if you think you might want to comment, then you should.
Yeah, you should definitely.
Right hands.
Right.
Right.
Raise your right hand.
Right.
Do you all swear that the testimony you will give will be true and full to the best of your knowledge and ability?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just for the record, there were 5 members of the public who all swore and answered in the affirmative. Okay. Moving on. This will be repetitive, but this is a public hearing on the appeal filed by Megan Fonte, owner and landlord of 52 Bradford Avenue, seeking the reduction or elimination of the $10,000 penalty levied for the removal of the public shade tree along Bradford Avenue in front of 52 Bradford Avenue. This appeal is made pursuant to section 29-15 of the Crafton Borough Code of Ordinances. The appellant was provided notice of tonight's hearing and she was present. And I will now read into the record the borough's exhibits. Exhibit 1 is chapter 29 of the Borough Code of Ordinances, Park and Shade Tree Commission as amended. Number 2, exhibit 2 is the notice of violation letter sent September 2nd, 2025. Exhibit 3 is the documented tree maintenance expenses incurred by the borough. Exhibit 6, it's the property owner appeal letter dated September 11th, 2025. And then number 5 would be the removal documentation and tree appraisal analysis. And so those are the borough's exhibits. And Ms. Fonte, do you have any documents that you would like to offer as an exhibit prior to presenting your case?
No, I have not put those together. And I also did not ask my tenants to come. They all work. And I didn't quite know the extent of this appeal, but I feel like I have some good information to offer.
Okay, very good. So no other exhibits at this time. If there are, then we will start. The next exhibit would be exhibit 6. So at this point, Ms. Fonte, I will turn the floor over to you to present whatever you would like to the Borough Council.
Okay, first, I'd like to thank you for your time and listening to my appeal. I wanted to explain why my business is in Crafton. My father was born in Crafton and was baptized over at St. Philip's Church. I still have lots of family and friends in the area. Even though I am an out-of-state landlord, I can guarantee you that I'm not an absentee landlord. Some of my tenants even call me a mama lord. One of my tenants has been with me for 17 years. 4 of my tenants are senior citizens, and I offer them rent for a much lower rate than what they would be paying. I just feel like I take my job very seriously. I do go through the apartments annually, and I really love my business. I want to explain why I took down the tree in the first place. I had a next door neighbor that probably every time he saw me or texted me or emailed me saying that it's, parking is at a premium and the tree is making things difficult. The tree also buckled my sidewalk, and I did replace where it was buckled. I have later learned that if I would have contacted the borough, you would have taken care of replacing the sidewalk, but I did not have a clue that that would be covered by you. As I also didn't have a clue that it was the city of Crafton's tree, and I do regret. I am a rule follower, and this would not be my regular behavior. I would have never spent $2,300 to have the tree taken down to know that then I would be fined $10,000. As I said in my appeal, I do take the trees very seriously, and I have spent over $15,000 in Crafton. In the appeal, I gave you each and every address. I also have planted a tree at one of my places. At 47 South Linwood, I have the oldest and largest tree in the city of Crafton. It took 2 days, and I spent $3,000 on that tree to save the tree. So I haven't taken trees lightly. This tree being right there on the edge, the sidewalk buckling, the neighbor complaining, and then my tenants also complained that the tree was a nuisance and it was hard to park under. When I called Blystone Tree Service, I spoke with Joyce, and I said, "Hey, Joyce, I just got a letter from the city of Crafton, and I did not pull a permit." And I wasn't calling her to get her in trouble or to pick on Buddy, but they've done all my tree work as I try and support the local people in Crafton. My lawn service is Crafton owned. I really do try and give back to the community. And Joyce, they have done 6 jobs for me. And Joyce said that she didn't know a permit was needed. And I wanted to tell them so someone else does not find themselves in the same predicament that I've found myself in. So she said that they've worked with the Borough of Crafton, and they also live in Crafton, and they've worked for many people in Crafton, and she had never heard of a permit before. So I guess that's my question for the board. I feel very naive that I made this mistake, but I also, if my tree guy doesn't, and I really respect him, he's a hardworking guy. If he doesn't know to say to me, "Did you pull a permit?" I think that would be a good thing for us, for the greater good of Crafton and the trees. We figure out a way to get this word out. I don't want someone else to be going through what I'm going through. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a public speaker. I'm a mama lord, and I do take this very seriously. And as I said, my tenant that's been there for 17 years, he pays $725 a month for a very large one-bedroom apartment. I have another gentleman that pays $525 a month because he couldn't make it during COVID. I lowered his rent. I have an elderly gentleman that has a 3-bedroom, 1969 Crafton Boulevard, and he's elderly. He pays $900 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And his nephew comes and goes. He's a truck driver. I really try and respect my tenants, and I try and give really good housing. I wouldn't rent anything I wouldn't live in myself. And as I said earlier, I'm not an absentee landlord. I would like you to seriously consider my appeal. And I do feel a little bit like an idiot that I made this big mistake, and I apologize for that. I think for the greater good of Crafton, I'd be willing to put in 2 trees for the one I took down. I'd be willing to get advice on an arborist, what kind of trees work best there. I will say at 61 North Linwood, I put a tree in about 5 years ago as some other landscaping work by AJ Services, and that tree has grown very, very fast. So I would like to make amends for my mistake. I do feel like $10,000 is more than I think I should pay, even though I do have regret what I did, and I've learned an awful lot from this. I've told some people about it, and they're like, oh yeah, that's a city tree. I had no idea. I would never break the law or the rules if I knew. And so I have regret for that, but I also feel like I do bring good to the crafting community, and I do take care of my 12 apartments, and I am a mama lord. I'm not a slumlord, and I just feel very strongly that when I got the letter, I thought, oh, maybe it's time for me to get out of the business, because I really try and do good every day. And I understand that you guys are trying to do good for the community, and trees are important. And I haven't taken it lightly. And the last thing is as I said, I've spent $15,000, over $15,000 with Blystone trees, and every single one of those was making things better. So that is my goal for the greater good of my tenants and for the community. And again, I appreciate your time listening to me. And I'm willing to answer any questions anyone has.
Any questions from council? Okay.
I have one. What was the company that took the tree down?
Buddy Blystone.
Okay.
And he also works for the borough. He works for you guys.
Oh, he does work.
Yeah.
He's not an
Yes.
employee. He's a contractor.
Yes, but yeah, so that was my biggest intrigue, is how did Buddy not know I need a permit? And I wasn't calling to throw them under the bus. I was calling them so no one else found themselves in the same mistake that I made.
Okay. Any other questions from Borough Council?
A procedural question?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we ask questions later after we go through other exhibits? Or is this the only time we ask questions of the applicant?
Yeah, her case will be over afterwards. So if you have a question, you should ask them.
Well, I guess I'll ask one. Although I don't know if I really need it. Ms. Sante, you mentioned a desire to put in some trees to replace the one that was taken out with the assistance of an arborist. Have you spoken to one yet?
No, I wanted to see what the appeal was going to be, because if it's $10,000, you know, I am willing to, you know, certainly replace and do it. The only question I have is I would just talk to my plumber and see where the sewer line is, so that it's not a complication there. And the other thing I put in my appeal is I don't think that a tree right there next to the sidewalk is ideal, because as I said, it buckled the sidewalk. So I would prefer to have it up on the hill or in the backyard. And I would be glad to get advice from, you know, the council of what they ask for. And then I'm also very happy to show proof that I followed through and planted these trees.
Yeah, and for the information is that in the small tree lawns, no trees can be planted. again, because of the issues with sidewalks and streets and everything else. So that's why we have the program where people can get free trees in their front yard or the replacement of any type of shade tree that comes down.
Any other questions from council? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fonte. From the borough's perspective, I think the documents that are part of the record speak for themselves. Not to get strictly legal, but the standard here has not been met by the appellant, meaning the penalty is required by statute. That's what, for issuing a penalty is required by statute. It is shall, and that Mr. Tedesco, Mr. Price, and the arborists did their job and came up with a appropriate value for the statute, for the ordinance. And we have no evidence of record that rebuts that. From a technical standpoint, there's a lot of data that went into this, and it is, again, part of the exhibit packet. It's very clear how the value was assessed and compared to other trees on the street. And where the numbers came from. So, I'm not here to belabor the point. I think that the council has all that's in need to make a decision. So I don't have anything further from the borough's perspective.
May I ask a question?
May?
Am I the only person that's done this?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean,
In my tenure,
couple of
yes,
years,
but
yeah.
yes, but
I've
in
been
the last
here-
almost 3 years, yes.
Yeah.
And has anybody else been fined $10,000?
Again,
And that's been taken
I've
down.
been around since 2018, and this is the first appeal that I'm aware of. I don't know what enforcement mechanisms were used or fines were levied before now, but there's never been an appeal to council, so.
I think it's important to note also that the law was passed, I think, in your first year. I think it was 2018. 2019. So the law has been in place for 6 years.
So this is, to my knowledge, the first appeal, but certainly not the first time somebody has cut or damaged one of our trees. But I just don't think that it made it to this level, so I wouldn't have knowledge of that.
So I'm the first one that's been fined $10,000.
Well, I mean, I'm not so sure that you're the first one to be fined or to be penalized, but again, the amount is based on the tree that was removed. So someone could have removed the smaller tree and been fined or penalized a couple $1,000. I just don't know. But you're the first person that's been penalized and has appealed it to Borough in the last 6 or 7 months. Okay, you can ask that, and so then, council, are there any questions for me? I suppose at this point.
Questions, perhaps on the Borough.
Okay.
Nice,
Yes.
nice. Yeah, that's what we're discussing here. It's being recorded.
Any,
Just so I understand
yeah,
process.
good. Any questions then from Borough?
Do we have public comments?
They're next.
Oh, okay.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to public comment. Anyone that was sworn in would like to make a comment? Now is your time. The buck box.
Mary Buckstalker, 71 Kingswood. I would like, because there's people on Zoom, there's people here in the audience. We actually have our arborist here.
I would like for her to tell people why it was such a large, what you would call a large price, not just $1,000, but $10,000. This was what we would call probably a heritage tree. It was not just a little tree. It had probably, as long as Bradford had been there, probably was there. And there's luckily several nearby that are still there. And if that's okay, if we could hear from our, so maybe that would help some of you who, like wonder why is that a $10,000 tree?
Mike, can you make sure that mic's on?
Yeah.
But the arborist, you can address that quickly. I think it's in the report. I think it has access to that, but yeah, you certainly.
Hi, do I introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Okay, Megan Cervani, Tree Pittsburgh, senior arborist. First of all, I think Crafton has contracted services through Tree Pittsburgh for me to represent, I guess, Crafton. So I now attend Shade Tree Commission meetings. So through that contract, I now have more insight to the goings on in Shade Tree meetings. And so that is potentially why this is coming to light now, since it was in the ordinance and there's an arborist on staff or whatever representing Crafton to be able to go look at the trees. And I have a software that I use to assess trees, Tree Keeper. You can see the inserts have the examples of the neighbor trees that were assessed. This tree was also on the pruning that happened last year. And so I went with Mike earlier this year to look at the pruning that was done to approve for you guys to pay the invoice. So this tree happened to be one that was pruned recently that I did see earlier this year. No red flags came up at that point in time. So I had eyes on the tree. I didn't do a full assessment. I didn't walk around it and really observe and take notes, but I was at the tree and I observed the pruning that was done by another arborist, Davey Tree Experts. So when I learned of this tree, I did the assessment of the comparable trees, and on Google Maps, I could see the historic footprint of the tree. And by that value, and by me being there previously, as well as the street maps from 2 years ago, was able to make an assessment that these trees were all planted around the same time. When you see the picture, I can't tell you what page, but where the 3 addresses are shown overhead, the canopy of the tree that was removed was actually fairly large because there was a gap between 52 and 58. 58 has the 2 remaining trees, which allowed this tree to get even bigger, more canopy. So it was a bigger asset. I had to use the other 2 trees to kind of guess the diameter. Most trees are measured at chest height or 4.5 inches off the ground. So I can only use the root flare at that time to measure it. So I compared the other 2 to be able to assume what the caliper inch would have been, which is where I came up with 32 inches. And then when you have an assessment of 32 inches, you want to know the replacement value. So it's just a straight numbers game from there. So 32-inch tree is 16 2-inch caliper trees. And you then, based on species, have a range of values that you can choose from. And I picked $200 because most trees at 2 inches are 200. Certainly more trees that are more diverse. This is actually like a direct London plane replacement, but Crafton, if you were, you would potentially plant new trees, which could be more than 200.
Like that, yeah.
Oh, I thought you had something.
Yeah, I heard it cut out too. That's the only eats better.
No, that's-
Thank you. So I was saying about $200 for 16 2-inch caliper trees would be equivalent to a 32-inch removal, which is what I had to estimate this one to be. And that's just the replacement cost at 3,800, which is $200 per tree, and then a $500 delivery of all trees together. Now let's assume, again, now you go into assumption mode, which is where why this number became so big, is to get a company to install those trees. So to take all responsibility off Crafton to replace it, you would contract this work out. So we have the value at $200 a tree. Most landscape companies take the price of a tree that they were to go pick up from somewhere else and essentially double it for the installation cost. So that's where it's the transport to the planting site, installation, mulch, and staking. So it's basically the whole all-in value is 3,800 plus 3,200, which is approximately $7,000 just to physically put new 30 trees in the ground. So the remainder is the reason why it's 10,000, and it could have unfortunately been higher, is because the 3 years of establishment that ball and burlap trees require. You have to water them, you have to mulch them, you have to water them. And you'll see all the notes that I took about how long it takes to water a 2-inch caliper tree. And this isn't perfect, but a 2-inch caliper tree is about 20 gallons twice a week. So this is why I guessed 5 minutes. It could be much longer than that. So this was actually an underestimate of labor that would require to establish 16 2-inch caliper trees. So that's the only reason why it's 10,000. That's basically the walkthrough of the process.
Any questions?
Is a 2-inch caliber tree like a standard practice then?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You don't plant street trees. All replacement trees are always 2-inch. You can go bigger, which are much more expensive, but 2 inches is standard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's more than one. I got a couple of questions.
It's public comments, but yeah, you can be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be true and full to the best of your knowledge and ability?
Yes. Again, my name is Richard Dixon, 1761 Crafton Boulevard. I walk this pattern every day, sometimes not. Lived a couple blocks up most of my life. I would also put in question, was this notice in 2019 of this law change distributed throughout the borough, so that this person who owned the property, even though she was out of the area, was aware of it? And then second of all, as someone who walks these streets and knows where probably every buckle in the sidewalk is, it becomes a now safety issue. And do we not have to take into account, if she was naive enough not to know this, but she was looking out for the greater good of the public safety, that she has to be given some type of credibility? But also that tree was sitting pretty much near an entrance to the property itself. So people who may have been handicapped or disabled would have a difficult time exiting their vehicle and then trying to maybe go up the steps in the front. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Just for council's edification, the ordinance that's under discussion, it was originally adopted. I'm sorry, in January 21st of 1969. So the requirement for a permit has existed for decades. The changes that were made in 2019 had nothing to do with whether or not you need a permit to prune or remove public tree in the borough of Crafton. Just for everybody's edification. Okay, any other public comment?
Hi, my name is Kristen Schuley, and I'm on the Shade Tree Commission. So full disclosure. First, I want to say this, I know, I'm sorry, I don't know how to use Zoom. But, so this may sound harsh, however, we all live in a community. We live in a community, we live in a city. Some of us may live in HOAs, and every one of those organizations or those groups that, right, they have a governing body. You have a council, you have administrators, what have you. And you pretty much have to have a permit for everything. We have to have a permit for fire pits. You have to have a permit if you do any sort of renovation on your house, including replacing windows, believe it or not. And so before anyone is to undertake anything major, you really should stop and ask. You should seek, right? You should seek the information. And again, I understand people don't know things and things are done out of ignorance, but since we all live in communities that tend to have rules, you might want to stop and ask first from whomever is, running that community. Is there a permit? Do I need a permit? Before you do something that could have legal ramifications, a fine, whatnot. Personally, I think that the landscaping company should have known better. That's their profession. The Borough of Crafton contracts them to prune and deal with street trees. They should know the difference between a street tree and who owns those trees and what rules govern those trees, and a tree on a private property. And if they don't, then maybe they should have a certified arborist that works with them. Or again, maybe they should have contacted the borough. And so, like I said, I can absolutely appreciate that the removal was not done out of malice and there was no ill intent, it was ignorance. But unfortunately, we've had some very real damage that's irreparable. That tree was probably anywhere from 50 to 100 years old, even more. So we cannot replace that tree in our lifetimes. It's gone. And we can't plant 200 trees on that site. So the damage to the community and to the canopy, it's done. And I understand that the intent was in part for public safety, because the sidewalk was buckling. But there are ways to deal with that issue rather than what I would consider the nuclear option, which is you remove something that once again can never be replaced. So it was stated that it was about $2,300 to take the tree down. Well, how much would it have been to replace the sidewalk? The sidewalks can be fixed. They can be curved around the roots of the tree. That is done here in the city of Pittsburgh and other areas. That's done across the country in areas that have a more conservation-minded approach. And I really think that that's something that as a borough and as, just everyday people, we should start to kind of think along those lines a little bit more. What is going to be the environmental impact or the conservation impact rather than what's the quickest, what is the easiest way to fix this? I understand the concern about branches falling and, the parking issue. I do not have off-street parking. However, when you are living in a place that has no off-street parking, when you rely on on-street parking, these are risks that you assume to your vehicle, to your property, right? So there could be a storm and a branch could fall and damage your vehicle because it's not parked in a driveway. A car could hit your vehicle because it's not parked in a driveway. Your vehicle could be broken into because it's not parked in a driveway. These are all things that, like I said, you deal with, you kind of assume that risk when you're choosing to live in that place. And as far as branches falling, one of the things that mitigates that risk is proper pruning of the trees. And that's why we now have contracted a professional arborist. We've been doing this for a while, but semi-annually, we go through the tree stock of the borough. We assess it, we assess them, and we identify, with the help often of residents who email or call or talk to us directly, but we identify trees that we think are unhealthy or we're afraid that there might be a fall risk. And so we make sure that we deal with them in a timely manner and an appropriate manner, because even pruning a tree improperly can cause sickness and then cause death and then cause property damage because it then falls over. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Julie? Any other public comment? Okay. Seeing none, council's pleasure, executive session following the meeting and, decision in about, in 2 weeks. Is that where we went ahead or do we? Get ready to make a decision tonight. We can just recess at the end of the meeting and deliberate and then come back and vote on the record. But those are, I think those are the primary options for real.
What does council think? There's a lot of information that was presented tonight, which was very good by not only residents, but the owner. The options are we can make discussion and make a decision now. We go to executive session and make a decision in 2 weeks, or we think about it and then come back.
I'd vote for 2 weeks to executive session after next meeting and then come to decision. This is a lot of data and stuff was passed around. I'd like to digest a little bit.
I agree with that.
I think we could have a short one, at a minimum, just have a short one afterwards tonight, and other questions, et cetera, and that can set you on your path to reviewing the information in the record. We'll get a transcript by then that you all can review as well, and then we can have an exec maybe before or in between the workshop, or just before. We can figure that. We can even try to arrange a conference call or something and have a exec or Zoom call or whatever. Sometimes plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, we'll go to an executive session tonight, since needed, but definitely not making decisions until the next council meeting. Take some time.
I agree.
Yes, I agree too.
Okay. I think Colton did. So conclusion, executive session tonight. Absorbing information. And then likely a decision at the next council meeting. Okay.
So if without objection, I will adjourn the public hearing. And then announce that the council will hold an executive session following the meeting this evening to discuss this matter. And we'll be back in 2 weeks, hopefully with a decision. Thank you all.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the end of my.
Okay.
That probably longer than Larry.
I think you beat him already here. All right, manager's report, Mr. Price.
Thank you. All right. First is the budget process. We had our third today. And we finally got to making some decisions or starting some preliminary decisions. So that was great. And there is still some data that needs to be updated, but our next workshop is October 23rd. Before the next meeting. And then there are some shifted meetings. The November 20, just to remind everybody, the November 24th meeting is on a Monday. That is shifted forward because of Thanksgiving. So just keep that in mind. But the other budget workshops are all going to be at 6 o'clock prior to the 7 o'clock meeting. The next item on the list is I'd like to rescind the Alcoasand grant from cycle 10 for the C20 project, which was granted for the amount of $1.666 million at 60% of the eligible project costs. So this is what we originally were awarded for the C20 project. And then when we combined those projects with the green infrastructure projects that were not as desirable, this one ended up being actually a much more desirable project. And we were offered a much higher grant, and that's the next motion. But with this one, I'd like to ask for a motion to rescind the GROW, to allow me to rescind the GROW grant from Alcoasand for $1,666,000 or $5,000. There, that's an incorrect number. There's an extra zero there. $500 the borough received for the C20 sewer separation project.
So moved. And Mr. Ho?
Second.
Ms. Bokonik. Any questions or discussion?
So are we sure that there will be no ramifications of turning down one and then accepting the next, like there, we can, that it's not going to reflect poorly on us, which so some grants, if we turn down one, that you're less likely to get the next one.
Yeah, we're being asked by them to do this. Yeah, so this is basically the only way to do it, because we've already signed, we signed a contract. So that's why they need it to be an official action, so that that we can't come back to them later and say, no, we signed a contract, we need this money too. So this is really about making the other offer clean. So no, there's no risk.
Both from Elkasan, same place. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Great, thank you. The next item is the one that's more fun. That's accept the Alcoasand grants from cycle 11, this past cycle, for the C20 in the amount of $2,269,800 which is 72%, and that will be reimbursed at 72% of the eligible project cost. So with that, I'd like to motion to accept cycle 11 grow grant from Alcoasand for $2,269,800 at 72% of the eligible project cost for the C20 sewer separation project.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Hope. All right, Ms. Compitello. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item is just a reminder that we are going to be discussing this discrimination law amendment. You do have, I think I put the updated language either in last meeting's folder or in this meeting's folder, and I can resend that to everybody. We will be discussing that, the Finance Administration and Sustainability Committee in October, and then we do plan to advertise that for potential, I say it's for passage or for consideration is what I should have said, at the October 23rd meeting. So there'll be more updates on that to follow. That's essentially, the change is that we're rescinding the portion that creates a board, which is very difficult for us to man and populate and to activate. And we're also going to change some of the language so that it matches what the county's is, so that the county can be the deliberating body for that as opposed to the borough. So that's the changes there. More updates on that at the next meeting. Also, council has received the civil service rules and regulation updates from the Civil Service Commission. Those revised documents are proposed by that commission, are being circulated, and they need to be approved by council. The current documents are from 2013. And I don't know if anybody's had the opportunity to look through those. If you have any questions, I didn't put a motion on this because we really haven't discussed it. And I still need to get updates from the chief just to make sure he doesn't have updates in addition. But we can put this on for formal passage at the next meeting. And then we'll have new rules and regulations for selecting officers, updated with all the new rules that are out there. And council can consider it then, unless you have questions to that. Okay. And then the last update in my report, which feels very short suddenly, is the Trail Study Committee is doing their public outreach on Wednesday, November 12th. We put out some notices on that. We do have flyers if anybody wants to take a flyer and post it someplace. I did give some to the library. I think a few of the committee members are planning to stop in and collect flyers, so please share those widely. This is also an opportunity to after this public outreach, then there'll be a plan submitted for council to approve. The committee will have one more meeting to review that. And then either recommend it at that point or consider whether they want to have another meeting. And then we'll have a draft trail plan for both of the major trails that were considered. So the Baker's Acres and the Chartiers Creek Trail. But that is happening on November 12th, and please sign up if you'd like to come. We're going to do a presentation of the trails and have some options considered on what are the different other alignments that might happen. So those trails are considered, and they have definitive, like kind of basic outline plans for how those trails could look. And then there's some considerations for other connections that the borough would like to make moving forward.
Did I miss when we talked about Alpha Sense?
Yeah, number D
D.
or D.
Did I totally pass?
Yeah.
I think you did.
I did. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. My apologies. Yes. So this is just another update. These transfer documents are in the folder. I actually put both of them in.
Mhm.
So we have now officially transferred two of the intermunicipal trunk lines. Which means any line that's going to Alcoasand that first comes through another municipality is no longer Crafton's responsibility. So and the reason they do that is, for example, you could have a trunk line that services thousands of homes in the city of Pittsburgh, then hits Crafton, and now we're suddenly responsible for taking care of this trunk line that is massive and is oversized. And that's largely the case for the C20 line. It's a very big line, and we are no longer responsible for its ownership. So
For the P19.
for the C19 and C20, I didn't put on here that we did sign, and I forgot to mention this a few months ago, that this was finally transferred as well. You had approved it at a meeting last year,
Right.
but the actual approvals and transfers. So any work that needs to be done on those. So if we get service calls on those, they go to Alcoasand now. They don't come to us. And we just informed Public Works of that too, because they had been cleaning those fairly regularly, so those will no longer be our responsibility. And so it's no longer a liability for the borough.
Part of the consent decrees I remember was you have your responsible portion, you have to lower that percentage down to the 80% or so. And then when it is in our borough, that's our requirement, but we can't do that if others aren't. So it creates the whole thing, and that's where we approve the transference of the ownership of those two to Alcoasand.
Yep, we had to bring them up to standards, and that's one of the main reasons, one of the big reasons that we're doing a lot of the work that we're doing. And that concludes my report.
Great. All right, Mr. Keenan, engineers report.
Good evening. First item is the Broadhead Sewer Separation Project, and the update is that the construction is currently on along Crafton Boulevard, approaching the Broadhead intersection, and there is also a crew at the bottom of Warren Street doing work as well. Crafton Boulevard closure and detour are now in effect and are expected to last a month. Closure of the trail portion is also still in effect. And a reminder that the contractor is planning to use additional crews and work in other areas. The expected project completion is still October of next year, 2026.
I just want to add a couple things here too. We have created a page on the website that is specifically for Crafton, for Broadhead. It's going to be updated weekly with the places where people cannot park. We're also posting at the front and bottom of every street that's being worked on currently. There'll be a QR code where people can scan and see what the latest updates are on that. And we're going to send out weekly Facebook and Savvy blasts to make sure that people know exactly where they can and cannot park. The contractor had been moving their cones and whatnot based on the work they're doing. But that's confusing for people because one morning it might be in one place, the next day it might be in another place. And so we've made it more consistent that we will update people on a weekly basis with the group of houses that they cannot, or the area where they cannot park, what time they have to get out, what time they can't be back until, because they are working 10-hour days. So it makes it a little more challenging. But we will do our best to keep that updated. We are now also having weekly meetings, checking in at the end of every week to make sure that there's no issues with this, because especially now that they're working multiple crews, it makes it much more difficult for us to manage. So now we're checking in on a regular basis so that this goes more smoothly. So.
Yep, thanks, Jim. Next item is the Perrine Street Sewer Project. This is an ongoing item, and the update is the same. The eminent domain ordinance was passed a while ago. It is still in the process of obtaining resolution of taking from the city of Pittsburgh. Next is Ewing Road. Final estimate was received on the road repair, and it is currently being reviewed. We were informed that this latest estimate would come with some drawings, but was told that it was more based on GIS mapping, photos, and field reviews. With that said, the next steps on this are to be discussed. Will be an item on the upcoming infrastructure meeting. And note that the grant opportunities will be sought after if the project moves forward, including, for example, the Multimodal Transportation Fund. Next is the C20 sewer separation. Right now, currently, the project is in front of the CVS on Steuben Street, heading towards the West Crafton intersection. The expected project completion date, I have here Friday, the 14th. That has actually been updated since this has been typed up to the 18th. So the November 18th is the new expected project completion date. The next is a concern with the ponding water at the southeast Steuben Duncan intersection. And the resolution in the works is to rebuild the ramp and modify the asphalt in front to provide proper drainage to the nearby inlets. Contractor agreed to the bid prices and is expected to cost $7,000 to $9,000 to install. Crosswalks are also being proposed, but we'll be going in at all the crossings on Duncan and Steuben intersection with PennDOT okaying this to take place. And will likely happen after the ramp and asphalt gets done at the corner. Another item is the Duncan Avenue paving. Meeting did happen to discuss the discrepancies with the final paving along Duncan Street and the drainage issues that are now occurring. Right now, we have some efforts in place to help get them resolved with the contractor, hoping that they can repave this when they come out to do the final paving along Steuben Street in the future. Next is the Public Works Building. This expected completion date is November 7th of this year. The recent completed work includes finishing, installing the garage doors, framing for the interior rooms, and DPW has also been working on extending the approach in front of the building. 2 tree removals and further vegetation clearing are required for Duquesne Light and PA American Water to do their utility work on this project. Also, we did receive an estimate from PA American Water regarding the water main extension and proposed fire hydrant at the new building. Next is Steuben and Linden intersection improvements. The 8A ramp has been poured at the intersection. The remaining work at this includes replacing a sunk sidewalk slab, as well as completing an as-built survey that was requested by PennDOT. We did have a recent issue with the sewer lateral at 119 Steuben, where it was, it says here where the traffic signal pole foundation was installed directly in the way. That was the initial assumption, but it was later discovered that it was more so Tedesco doing their sewer construction out on the street with their excavation and trench box placement. Since then, the repair has been repaired. Since it was considered an emergency, Reuter was contracted to complete this reconnection work, and these costs will be forwarded on to the contractor. Next is the Linwood Noble Parks. This update remains the same as well. Cost estimate analysis for Linwood and Noble Parks are currently in development to include baseline and proposed improvements to be used for good, better, and best options. More to come with this at the upcoming infrastructure meeting on the 20th. Next is the 2025 Crafton O&M repairs. This contract work is ongoing but wrapping up. Contract A excavation, they finished up their repairs this week. I believe that was yesterday, the final repair was done. Contract B, the manhole to manhole lining, that work did start this week, yesterday the 8th, and is expected to last approximately 2 weeks. Contract C, the spa lining, this work has been completed, and we are waiting on their final pay application. Next is the 2025 road paving and brick plan priority. Priority areas have been determined for 2025, including brick streets, curbs, infrastructure, and concrete header repairs. This project is scheduled to go out to bid on Thursday, October 16th, with a bid opening on November 4th. The impacted streets for this include the following: Clearview at the Middle Street intersection, as well as 3 other areas. North Grandview Avenue in front of house numbers 8 and number 10. Bar Avenue around the manhole in front of 1769. And Belvedere in front of 82 Belvedere Street. Next, the road paving. That is to be part of the Broadhead Sewer Separation Project. Again, the streets impacted by this are Crafton Boulevard, between the Broadhead and Trail Entrance this year, Broadhead Avenue this year and next year, Warren Street, Park Street, Coulter, Canal, and North Linwood, that will get brick trench repairs. North Emily Street and Belvedere Street will all be taking place next year. And finally are the permit applications, which are newly received permits for street utility work in the borough. We only have received one, and that is for PA American Water at the location 49 Warren Street. Expected repair dimensions are 4 foot by 4 foot. And that concludes my report. No questions.
Any questions, council? Okay, thank you, Mr. Keenan. Community and Economic Development, Mr. Tedesco.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I have 5 items. Bear with me. I'm going to jump around and start with kind of the easiest items first and then work my way into the more complicated conversations. So starting with item E, the LSA grant for $120,000. As we discussed, we will apply some vegetation and landscaping improvements around the school. We have a liaison essentially working with the school district and with us, working on a plan. That plan is still in process. Her update to me just dropped in my inbox just before this meeting. We have some time, so more to come on that topic, and the tree commission will also continue to discuss it.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Topic. Have we been able to confirm that we are able to use the grant for that purpose? I know we had a lot of restrictions around it. We have confirmed.
Yes.
That's
Yeah, only for specific vegetation types.
Right.
It's very
It's
specific.
gotta be, it's gotta be in the list that's already in the.
Yeah. Jumping to item A, the next planning commission meeting is October 28th at 6:30. At that meeting, they intend to discuss what they would like to tackle for next year. Now that zoning is off the table and their legal requirements to review processes that come up through the process are now really minimal. It's up to them to initiate planning initiatives. And that's what they're going to discuss at the meeting on the 28th. Bocce ball court. So as most folks know, we got a generous anonymous donation to improve the bocce ball court down at the park. It will be improved in place, slight adjustments to where the court is, lots of improvements to drainage to get the water out of there so there's no ponding. There'll be a sidewalk from the drive up to the pool, down to the bocce area, and the sidewalk will essentially mostly encircle the bocce ball court. So it'll be concrete around the bocce ball court with an improved court and improved drainage. Larry and I met with the contractor last week. I think it was last week. It was recently. They are going to start staging on October 13th. It's an easy staging process. They're going to take up a little corner of the public parking lot at the park. And then they will begin work on October 14th. That work will last about 20 business days. So about a month of activity and improvements in and around the bocce ball court. We're working closely with them. They're eager to get started. They got some warm weather left. So it could be, we could have a ribbon cutting in roughly a month, a little over a month for that. So we're all very excited for that. Yes.
Question, is there, and I didn't see it in the plan, but I wasn't sure, is there any lighting included in the plan?
I don't think so. Not to my memory. I don't think there is.
I only bring it up because I know there's a lot of bocce ball courts and leagues in and around the city of Pittsburgh and other municipalities that will sometimes, especially during this time of year, go till 8 or 8:30 in the evening. So
yeah,
I was just curious if that's something.
a good idea.
And ask them.
We can ask them. I think it'd be our contribution for the lighting, but if while they're installing things, they could, donate the labor. Yeah. So, yeah, we can communicate that. I think I'll move on to item C, the 82 Belvedere conservatorship. Apparently there's a lot of speculation online about how this conservatorship works, where the money goes when it's purchased, how all of this, just how does this work? So I want to take a moment and explain where the money goes and how much the borough is in to date, as well as other taxing entities, and how that money is dispersed. So this is kind of a legal conversation. I'll look toward the solicitor from time to time to fill in some gaps. But as you know, we are marketing 82 Belvedere to a responsible flipper to solicit bids for somebody to improve that property. We did not put a sticker price on the property. We put scoring criteria for bidders to propose and narrate within their bids when they submit a proposal. So that scoring criteria is three things. It is quality of improvements. It's time. It's how fast can you get it done? So timing, I'll call that timing. And then third is price. What's your offer on the property? And these scoring criteria are weighted. So quality and timing are each 40% of a total 100% score. Price is 20%. So when the reviewing committee, which is the topic, bookmark that, I'll get to the committee conversation in just a second, takes a look at these proposals, they will score it according to that criteria which was published. So price is not a driving factor. Price is the third factor. So it's how quick can you do it and how well can you do it? Those are the two biggest factors. Price will be a thing. It may well be a tiebreaker. So if there's two great bids and they're very similar in quality and timing, you know, that third item may very well be a tiebreaker. So I don't want to make it seem like price is insignificant. So we get a purchase price that we accept, we get a bid that we accept on the property. What happens next is solicitor's office gets to work to draw up the transaction paperwork, which is only in a draft form. I'm sure we need a title company. We have to get on the judge's docket for her to approve the transaction. So there's going to be some negotiation, some document prep, and some lead time depending on the judge's schedule for her to see and consider approval of the transaction. Now, it's the same judge that approved the conservatorship, and within our conservatorship plan, we said we were going to essentially do this. So when it's not going to be, approval should not be a problem whatsoever from the judge, but it's a time issue that is a consideration. Okay, so a judge approves it. The property is now owned officially, free and clear of all clouds on title to the person who won the bid. So they own the property, subject to contract provisions that we work with Steve to put together. And those provisions will include performance requirements for the new owner. Which is to say, if you don't perform, there will be consequences, and we're gonna figure out a way to take back the property. However, that needs to look contractually. So where does all the money go? Where does this big windfall of proceeds go from selling Belvedere? The state law outlines a 9-step priority of payments, what I like to call a waterfall. So a sequence of payments. The first one gets paid off, and then you look toward the second one, and then the third one, all the way down to 9. And I'm going to read these, bear with me, verbatim, so everybody's aware. So the next time somebody's on social media guessing about, you know, what's going to happen with Belvedere, then we know what the facts are. And I'm also going to put how much money we're in kind of on a per step for this. So the first thing that gets paid off is all the court costs. And Jim and I were kind of guessing $2,000 to $5,000. Steve probably has a number that's going to be a little more precise.
4,200, I updated it.
Oh, thank you. 4,200. So right off the top from Belvedere proceeds, 4,200 is gone. The second item, and this is a good news item, it's all the liens of the Commonwealth and liens from unpaid property taxes, and that's for everybody. Currently, the borough has about $5,000 in liens on the property, so we should presumably get that. The county has about 3,000 in liens, and the school district has about 13,000 in liens. You know, it depends on the purchase prices, but we should be able to hit those liens. Depends on the bids. Cost and expenses associated with the sale. This is item 3. In this case, it will be the solicitor's time for drawing up the paperwork and bringing this thing to the court, the judge, for consideration and approval. And, you know, a few $1,000s for that, what we're guessing. Principal and interest on any borrowing or incurrence of indebtedness associated with the property. This is item 4. It's not applicable. We did not take out any debt to improve the property, so it's just not applicable. Item 5, this is us. Costs incurred by the petitioner for preparing this whole process. This is borough expenses. That's roughly 3,000 to 4,000. We got to go back through the books and figure out how much we worked with the attorney, but we might get that back. And then item 6, moving along, costs to rehabilitate or repair the property during conservatorship. That's the borough again. So this is, we cleaned it out for roughly 8,000. Public Works put some boards up and been mowing the lawn from time to time, miscellaneous things. That's probably gonna push $10,000. We'll see if we make it that far down the waterfall, depending on how bids come in. And then item 7, we're almost done. Item 7 is any valid liens and security interests in the property. This one is if there's a mortgage on the property, foreclosure, those guys get paid off. In this case, that specific property has a $600,000+ judgment against it. So if any money makes it to that level, it's not making it out of that level. Yeah. Item 8 is any unpaid obligations by the conservator, which is us. That is not applicable. And then finally, item 9, if any money is left over, it goes to the property owner of record. And if he cannot be found, then it goes to the Commonwealth. So that is how the money is dispersed. There are no real estate agents on this project. There are no commissions on this project. This is a subject to state law, and we're marketing it ourselves. And I've had roughly 8 walkthroughs, and they've all been very positive. Bids close on November 12th. So a committee conversation Jim and I have been having about the value of establishing a committee. It appears that there would be some value in establishing a committee, specifically, at least with 2 people that I have in mind, the property owners on each side who would be the neighbors to this property. And it just coincidentally, one of them is the chairperson of the planning commission, which is helpful because they kind of have a good sense of borough processes. And the other property owner I chat with every time I pull up. She's very curious about the future of the property. She would make a great candidate to sit on the committee and select a bidder. And then perhaps 2 or 3 others at large from the community, however we want that to look. So that conversation is coming. You'll be hearing more about that very soon. Jim, did I miss anything on this?
I think one thing I just summarized that for the borough to break even on what we've invested, we're looking at about $40,000 to $45,000 sale price. And anything beyond that, we probably won't break even.
Yeah. Yes. I'll pause there. Any questions on conservatorship?
Okay.
Okay, moving along, zoning, the last update. So this is maybe more of an open-ended conversation, which is why I wanted to close with this. As we all recall, about 2 weeks ago at the last council meeting, council decided, I'll back up a step even before that. The solicitor gave a great summary of the process to bring a zoning code to potential approval and a vote by borough council. Now, solicitor can remind us of that process, perhaps momentarily. But what we discussed was, let's give it 2 weeks, give council time to let things marinate, take a look at the code. If you're ready, we can officially start the public process. I don't know if it takes a motion any more than, I think what Jim and I just need is obvious consent that you're ready. Or we can give it another couple of weeks. Depends how this conversation goes tonight, how you guys want to proceed with the zoning discussion. I will stop there.
Can you take a question?
Steve, can you do a recap of that process real quick? I mean, is there a way, was it very? Sorry, Cliff Notes.
Yeah, so I'll try to
Yeah.
nutshell this. So now we have a draft that's been reviewed by the county. And so the ball is in our court to handle this. And so what has to occur is that the ordinance has to be advertised twice within. This is where the confusion comes in about the advertising. So it's not 60 days. That's the length of time, the maximum length of time between the first advertisement and the second. But you can advertise it anywhere in between, so long as, I think it's about a week in between the two. So really, based on what we discussed at the last meeting, it appeared that from an advertising perspective, et cetera, that we were looking at the rescheduled Thanksgiving week as probably the earliest that this could be accomplished. But there's at least one meeting subsequent to that, so we're still in that range. I am confident that we could have this advertised, et cetera. So from what happens at the advertised meeting is there is a public hearing, which is very similar to what we just did, other than it's not adversarial, but basically here's the ordinance and members of the public, you can come up and speak and let us know your opinion. Most communities will vote at the meeting following the public hearing. Some will vote at that meeting, but that's usually for, I'll call them minor amendments rather than an overhaul. So, you know, if we're looking at this from a procedural standpoint, it just feels to me like you're looking at one of the November meetings for a hearing, and then either the second November meeting for consideration of the ordinance itself and a vote, or the December meeting, assuming we're not meeting it twice in December, but
that was canceled.
that was
The second
canceled. But
Christmas Day was canceled.
stranger things have happened, and that could be a special meeting or whatever, so. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. And so I think we don't necessarily need a motion to authorize the advertisement, but I think Jim and Mike are basically looking for a head nod, if you will, that, hey, yeah, let's get this rolling and you know, we'll put together a timeline. I'll work with you fellows, and we'll put a timeline together and get it out to you all, make sure the public's aware of it, and you know, we'll be off and running and hearing a lot about zoning in the meetings for the remainder of the year, starting in November.
Yeah. It's perfect for Thanksgiving.
Oh, right.
I like that plan. That's my head nod. I'm on board.
So questions or discussion or thoughts from council?
I think there's been, at the last meeting, there was some discussion and comment regarding the rushing of the zoning versus delaying it. And just like to say that I don't think we had rushed the process, and I think delaying it would be just as bad as rushing it. I think the time is appropriate. I'm comfortable with the current draft. I've read through it. I think the time is appropriate.
Great.
Yeah, I think that sounds, I wasn't at that meeting, but I watched and I read and I agree completely.
And Colton, is Colton?
Yes, I'm here. I agree.
And the majority of council agrees to move forwards with the advertising for the public meeting for the November 13th. Right. So that's what I wrote down for November 13th for the public hearing and doing the required advertising for that. Okay. Is anything else needed or, okay, that's it? Okay,
That's it for me.
that's it for you? All right, thank you, Mr. Tedesco. Okay, standing committee reports, Finance Administration, Sustainability, Mr. Ho.
Thank you. The Finance Administration and Sustainability Committee has not met since the last meeting. So at our next meeting, I'll have a more thorough report on the current balance totals and other financials. But I would also just like to say that during the manager's report, we talked about the Cycle 11 Grow Grant from Alcosan, and we had the successful motion for that. This was something that was discussed in the Finance Committee meetings as well. And I just wanted to mention that the reason that we ended up getting a larger grant amount at a better percent of the eligible project cost was the direct result of public input at a meeting. We talked about the green infrastructure and people came and were concerned about what that would do to the infrastructure of certain roads involved. And we went back to the drawing board with the engineers at Gateway to an extent, and we ended up with a better plan that got us more money and has a better result. So it's important to know that, public comment is really important and great things can happen from that. So thank you.
That's where C20 is right now.
Yeah.
So where C20 is going along Steuben and then eventually on Richmond, we'll complete that project. Whereas prior it was proposed to do Oregon, Montana, and up that way to do bump outs and green space in those areas. So that's definitely a better solution. And that came through our engineering once we heard the public comments on that. All right, the structure and land use, Ms. Constello.
Not a whole lot tonight. The engineer gave a great report, and as he mentioned, the October infrastructure committee meeting has not yet happened. It will be October 20th. The borough building energy audit is on here. That was completed. We got a report from them. The work has been completed. And there are no dates committee on that. And that was of course paid for by a grant that we received from the state beginning of the year. Then the second item is the DCED $325,000 grant for pedestrian and related business district improvements around the center of Crafton, around the circle and our local businesses, our local business district. 3 options have been put together. They are not final, but they're kind of showing a menu of options. We do have to spend most of that $325,000 on the actual material and construction. Not much is for design or engineering. So materials and construction can cost a lot. So we have a lot of ideas that have been gathered, in these meetings and with the community and with the business owners themselves, through small group meetings and interviews and outreach to them, and the planning commission meetings and the business subcommittee. Lots of people have shared ideas, and we have more ideas than we can pay for with that, but we can probably pay for a lot. So we have 3 different ideas, 3 different options that kind of show what you could get if you prioritize a bit more one type of improvement or another type of improvement. We've talked about lighting, we've talked about crosswalks and pedestrian improvements, etc. Those 3 options were shared with the business subcommittee. They were actually on display at the business mixer that was discussed at the last council meeting. That would be happening, and then it did occur on September 30th. There was a business mixer held in the shopping district, as well attended. Those 3 options are now in the hands of the planning commission. So moving forward, and please, if you are interested, check out the planning commission meeting later this month to see how that's going and see what they have to say about it and share your thoughts.
Yeah, may I add something? Planning commission discussed it last month, so we're good there. If we can deep dive maybe at infrastructure meeting, we got a lot of votes in. The boards, if anybody live is interested in seeing the designs, they're right behind this wall in the hallway, all 3 boards in large view. And I need to keep talking to Jim, but we're thinking about blasting a quick survey. The webpage is built. I just need to chat with Jim really quick on the topic. So we're pretty far down. I think we are ready for infrastructure to deep dive on the comments and discuss what people are saying and maybe even take it to council thereafter.
Well, that sounds good. Yeah. And again, that's the infrastructure committee will be later in October for the time. So look forward to hearing more about it. And that's great to know. We'll just repeat again, if the boards for anybody here. Or if he wants to come in on another day, the boards are out in the hallway. That's all from me.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Constello. Communication and Recreation, a tag team of Mr. Hof and Ms. Buchanan.
Should we just go back
Yeah.
and forth?
Apologies, yeah, Mike and I are like the ones over here like coughing, so
Oh.
apologies. All right, we've got some real fun fall seasonal things coming down the road that the Recreation Board is working on. So first up, our Halloween mini golf. We are having a 21 plus pop-up haunted Halloween. That is this Saturday, October 11th. That will be from 7 to 10 p.m. This is our first time having an event like this, so we're very excited to try something new. I have mentioned it is 21 plus. This is a BYOB evening where you're encouraging costumes. We will have a movie playing. There will be awards for costumes, as well as Ray's Pizza Truck will also be there. And yes, thank you, Mike. You did the same thing I did. The weather looks spectacular tomorrow night. So if you do not have plans.
Not tomorrow.
Oh, shoot,
Saturday
sorry,
night.
and Saturday.
Tomorrow too.
Spoiler, I'm going to talk about tomorrow. The weather looks spectacular this weekend. So if you're over 21 and you need something to do, I encourage you, $10 at the door. We are doing adult BYOB mini golf, wear your costume. Okay, the reason I was so excited about the weather tomorrow, it's not listed, but I do want to encourage all throughout October, Friday and Saturdays is haunted mini golf, family friendly, except for this Saturday. But tomorrow's weather looks perfect. So it's $2 per person. The rec board, Mary, right here, shout out to Mary, mini golf, it looks very festive and fun. So it is a perfect way to spend some time with any of your friends, family, $2 a person, best deal in town. So we do have haunted mini golf every Friday, Saturday throughout the month of October. So please pop on down and go. The other event that is new that we're very excited about is our community free swap. That will be held Saturday, November 8th in our community room, which is right one next over here in the Borough building. This is a new event. We are excited. It will start at 9 a.m. on that Saturday. We have posted information on our website. There's information on Savvy Citizen. There is information on our official Facebook page for Rec Board. On those pages and on those sources really breaks down what we're accepting, what we're not accepting, and basically that process of bringing it over. We will have volunteers on hand to help sort, and anything that is not taken from this free event will be donated to local charities. So it is a good opportunity with the, if you're looking to downsize or you have things that have been collecting for years that you just didn't know what to do with, your Titanic CD perhaps. If it's in working shape, it's a great chance to unload some things that maybe somebody else could take advantage of. If you have a Titanic CD, I would love to have it. I saw it 3 times in the theater when it came out. Right. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, I know we're going to get questions on what we can and can't accept. Please check out Crafton's website, has information. Our Facebook page, the official Rec Board Facebook page, has information, as well as Savvy Citizen. So it's a new event. We're excited to give it a shot. Not done yet, everybody. Hope you're marking your calendars. We have our celebration of lights that will be held on Saturday, December 6th. I do not have an exact time yet. We're still working out those details, but I think it is safe to say like early evening-ish is when things would start. Obviously, it needs to be dark to flip the switch to light up the park. But if you want to pencil that in for a fun evening, some holiday heroes might make some appearances, as well as an official hot dog truck will be there. And what's more seasonally appropriate than holiday hot dogs? But we will have a time for that. We're just working through that. We've got some other hot Rec Board things that we're working through, but that will be dusk evening time for our celebration of lights on Saturday, December 6th. And the last update I have, based on what we've got here in our agenda, is our holiday house tour. Unfortunately, we did not have really any houses volunteer to participate in our holiday house tour this year. So we are not going to be holding that like we traditionally do. We are going to consider options moving forward for next year, but right now, if we can find an alternative for something to do, we obviously will be working very hard to get that up and out to the community. But we do have a lot of fun activities planned from now until the end of the year. So there are certainly things to do, but the Holiday House Tour that was originally scheduled for Saturday, December 14th will not be happening. Just gonna keep going. The fall newsletter is scheduled to be in homes relatively soon, early October, which we're kind of in now, so that is still on track. Just want to say, when you get that newsletter and you look at the updates of activities, you will see that house tour. But remember, that is not happening, and that is due to the fact that we have to give our information months in advance. So lots happening. Please check out website Savvy Citizen and the official Crafton Rec Board Facebook page for more information. And of course, if you have any questions on anything, you can reach out through our email, which is posted on those pages as well.
I'm so glad you did that, and not me.
So
much better than I was.
And I'm filling in for Erin, so I'm sorry she can't be here.
Great. Great. Board commission
Yep.
recruiting.
Good segue, good
Yeah.
segue. Currently, I've said this a couple times, we've just been in a really good position these past couple months. It was such a good job of having all of our boards and commissions filled, but that will, excuse me, towards the end of this year, we will be having some openings becoming available. So we will have, we do have one open now. Our Civil Service Commission, I'm sorry, the alternate, that did just open up. That is currently open. It's been open for a moment. If anybody is interested in exploring being on the Civil Service Commission in an alternate role, we have that available. You can apply on our website, craftonborough.gov/board commissions. And upcoming positions, we'll have a couple on our zoning hearing board. We'll have a 3-year term as well as one alternate seat becoming available at the beginning of the new year. So I already have it penciled in about a couple weeks or so. We'll be starting to really blast that on all of our communication channels. If anybody is interested, the application process, I can remind everybody about that in a couple weeks. I'm sure it'll kind of go in one ear and out the other if I would walk through it now, but it's very straightforward. And any current member serving, even those that seats are expiring, which I do not like that word, they have the option to reapply and go through that same process just like everybody else. So, and with that, I am done.
Thank you. The COG, Ms. Perry.
That caught me up short.
Uh-huh.
I thought I
I
read all
haven't.
the way through this. I have no idea, Jim.
So October 16th at
Thank you.
6:30, it is at Ingram. Yeah, yeah.
You know, 16.
The alternate for the COG, so, but it is October 16th at 6:30 at Ingram. And Crafton will be hosting, I think, in the near future.
Yeah, I actually don't know the date. I don't think they've given us the dates for next year yet.
Usually we're pretty early in the year.
Yeah. We're not hosting this.
Right.
Yeah.
But we
Next
can
week.
usually do it.
Yeah.
All right. So community announcements, our next council meeting is Thursday, October 23rd at 7 with the budget workshop at 6. We do have employment opportunities for substitute part-time crossing guard for Crafton Elementary. You can apply on the Crafton website. Spectacular mini golf happening Fridays and Saturdays in October from 7 to 9 for $2. And of course, for Halloween, as a reminder, is October 31st. That is a Friday between 6 and 8 p.m. The police and fire department will be on patrol to enforce safety. So please watch when you're driving. I still continue to see people flying around the streets after work during Halloween, which I don't understand. So there are lots of little kids there. Just either go off the streets or go extremely slow during that time. Shade tree, we talked a little bit about this tonight, front yard. And this is for anybody that's interested in a shade tree in their front yard, not in the three street tree zone, but in their front yard. It would be free, and you can apply online to get a tree that will be planted by Public Works. We will be doing that next month if the weather holds out well, so it'll be in November. No? Mary? December, we're doing December again because of the lack of rain. Okay. We'll be talking about it. The Shade Tree Commission meets on Tuesday at 6. All public is welcome to attend that if you'd like. And then finally, Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Please make sure to confirm your polling location. All right. Public comment. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Council has the option to respond or not at the end of the address. The solicitors are assigned timekeeper. Please state your name and physical address for the record. So for folks here, you just raise your hand. Oh, there. What's that? Nobody can hear online. Yeah.
Probably he's turned itself off.
It's green.
Is it? Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Battery's great.
Okay, no, I had a question about the conservatorship. Can't say the word, but, is there gonna be a base fee that they have to meet? Like, you know, because you said like you had to recoup 40 to 50,000, that would be just for the borough. So I didn't know if there was like a base fee. No.
Wait, yeah. Go ahead, ask your questions, Mary, then we'll.
Well, that's the question.
Oh, that's it?
Is
Okay.
there a,
Okay.
like, do they, when they bid, do they have to bid? Like, I've seen that before on things like no bid less than 100,000 or something.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up to them. I mean, if somebody bids $0, the odds of them winning the
Yeah.
very first.
Just didn't know if you had like since you were really seem to have a lot of numbers that just came up. You have a base. I know obviously it would be 600,000.
Yeah.
But I just wondered.
There's no suggested sticker price.
Yeah, and just to be clear, that 40,000 does not with the borough. That's just 40,000 has to be, they have to at least offer 40 to some thousand for the borough to get all of their money back, because the school district's gonna get 13,000 out of that 40,000. The county gets like 3,000 out of that.
That's why I wondered if there was.
Yeah, well, there, and that's what it is. The about 40,000 is the amount that if we get that, then the borough breaks even. But I mean, there's something to consider though, even if the borough, let's say the best offer is a $30,000 bid, the borough doesn't make money now, but it'll start paying taxes next year or whatever, and then,
Just wondered.
yeah. Yeah, but no, yeah.
Right.
Greg Wozniak. I wanted to talk about the conservatorship a little bit. I think at 40,000 is if we can hit that 40,000 and break even, then that means that we get all the we're on the tax rolls 100% for us. So and I think Mike, the more you work on these types of projects, the better you're going to get at it. Maybe we'll be able to cut our cost even more as we go along, and for those and the other tools that we have. But my concern is that a couple meetings ago, it was mentioned that we probably had 10 blighted properties, maybe even 10 more that would be that we would give to a list to the land bank. And as I understand it, once the land bank takes that property, we no longer have that option to do what Mike is working on so diligently as conservatorship. So then we go back into the land bank roles where they take control of the property, they take control of the disposition of the property and how it's disposed and who it goes to. They can put extra pieces on the extra conditions on the deed. I imagine just as we could, but anyway, we totally lose control of that. We lose 5 years of as 50% of the tax base on it. So I think there's got to be a really, really thoughtful thing here, because you give them that 20 houses, that's 20 of the best houses for you to actually put into your conservatorship, and what you've got refining a great model for, they're off the table for you. Once this land bank accepts them, you give them the list in the application. Can you explain?
Yes.
Wait,
Yeah. When you're
anything
done.
else?
When you're done.
Well, if you're going to explain that, that once we give them the list and we make application, they accept it. If your explanation is going to be that's not true, that I know that they have to tell us about it, and then we have to have a super majority to take those pieces back. So there's a lot to it. I get the email that I sent everybody says that. So again, Mike's doing a great job on his conservatorship thing. We're honing a tool for us to use. And what you're going to do is you're going to give away the best potential properties that we could have for us to keep all those tax dollars in-house and to keep control of what happens to those properties after they've been rehabilitated. So I look forward to your explanation, Jim.
So it's not true that when we give them the list, they're off our table. Once we give them the list, they still have to go through the process of actually purchasing each one of those properties separately. And they're still on the list, even if they take them to sheriff's sale. It's not until after they've gone through sheriff's sale and taken ownership of any individual property do we no longer have control. But we don't have control over the property now. We don't own any of those properties. We only have the ability to go through conservatorship. And it's important to note that although we're recouping all those costs, he has spent over 150 hours at this point on this. And if we were to do 3 of these, that would be half of his work for the next months. He spends all of his time on that. The advantage of the land bank is that they wipe out all those taxes and all that stuff without us having to deal with it. And we still are an advisor. There's saying that we don't have control is not true. They ask us before they purchase any single house, do you want us to purchase that? And we've already given it to them on the list, but they still ask us to reconfirm it. And then we have the opportunity to reconfirm that we don't want to, that we would rather you guys deal with that. We don't want to deal with it. And then they go forward with the process. And they're incentivized to turn it around as fast as possible so that they start recouping their money from it and get it off their list, because it encumbers them with debt that they wouldn't have otherwise. So they're incentivized to also move forward. And we are on an advisory panel with them, and we have an out every year. If we don't like how the land bank is going, we can remove ourselves in any given year. So there are a number of different other ways to handle it. But when a list is given to them, we still have access to every one of those houses just like they do until they actually purchase a house. And then once they purchase a house, just like any owner, like any person could purchase a house. We don't have control over people who buy houses. The land bank is the same thing.
So for the list,
Yeah.
isn't that something that council would approve, that list to give to them?
Correct.
So if we gave them one house on a list or no houses on a list, the ones on the list are the ones that council has decided that we're going to move forward, or we would like to move forward with on the land bank.
Correct.
Okay, so there is a control. It's not like they'll come and start scooping up houses in Crafton
Exactly.
or properties.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they do have the ability to take recommendations from nonprofits or from individuals. Like I could go to them and say, hey, you should purchase this house. But they have never had anybody use that tool that is available to them. And they have already told us that if that ever happened, they would tell us, hey, someone has asked for us to purchase it. Would you like us to purchase it? And they would take our recommendation over any individuals because we're members.
Anyone else? Yes, Terry.
Hi, Terry Mitchell, 84 Stockton. A couple things, okay? First of all, is the list of these properties going to be made public?
Yes.
Wait, let her go through all of the questions.
Okay. Okay, just are they going to be made public, and what, how they're going to be made public, okay? I do not think that joining the land bank is good. Just as far as what Crafton represents, okay? If you go on their land or on the land bank website, and you'll see the communities that they're currently working with are mostly in the Mon Valley, Homestead, Glassport, McKeesport, okay? Which is great because those areas were economically devastated when the steel mills went up. Crafton is not economically devastated, okay? Crafton has an 8.37% of below or at poverty. Okay, the Mon Valley is at 34%. So obviously at 8% at or below the poverty level, there isn't this great need for let's get low income housing, affordable housing. Okay, so that brings me to my next question. Okay, as a resident, okay, I'm very aware of the multiples of properties that have been flipped. Okay, all great. They've all sold wonderfully. They've all added to the community. Why aren't we going this route? Okay, at least with the Conservancy, you can have a flipper come in and say, yeah, I'm gonna make this great. I just think having an association with this land bank is not, it's just not the image that Crafton wants.
So I have, taking notes, writing fast. The first one is this, will this list be made public?
Yeah, it'll be approved by council. So
It'll be
yeah,
a public
it'll be
record.
Available.
Okay.
At council meetings. And we'll make sure it's public beyond that.
Working with Mon Valley, affordable housing was mentioned, which I don't think that's ever been mentioned with this process. Multiple properties being flipped is great. It's not the image Crafton wants, and I don't know if there was another question there.
I'd also like to make it clear that you mentioned all the poorer communities in the Mon Valley. The reason it started in the Mon Valley is that's where this cog exists. So that's where the project existed, but they also have Forest Hills and Churchill and a lot of other wealthy, which are also wealthy.
Not exactly.
They have a lower poverty level. They have a lower poverty level than Crafton. So they're not Woodland Hills.
Because people can't hear you.
Forest Hills does. And so do several other communities in the Mon Valley. And they are not just in the Mon Valley, but that is naturally when you're an organization and you start a project, you're going to get more members in the area where you're at. Lots of states across the entire country use this tool. Pretty much every state, we were one of the later states that adopted this tool. It's a very effective tool. Most of them do go countywide in most communities. Pennsylvania is kind of tough. We do things very slowly. But this is it's a very effective process. It's recommended by most municipal organizations as a way to combat blight. You ask, why is it that we're doing this? Again, it's, you know, if you're trying to save for retirement or do things, you don't just use one tool, you use all the tools that are available to you. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. Land banks have tools that nobody else has access to, such as when they go through a sheriff's sale, they're able to wipe out all the liens. Nobody else can do that. So we take a thing to a sheriff's sale, we can't do it that way. We take things to a conservatorship, we have to go through a long legal process, talk to judges, and even then we might not get those things cleared off. In the case of 82 Belvedere, we were able to, but that's not always the case. So when we do that, we tie up a lot of capital and a lot of risk, whereas this costs us about $3,000 a year. And then the taxes on the back end. So only after they've sold the house. So it's just a very effective process, and it saves the borough a lot of time and money and investment, so we can do other things. And we're going to get good owners. We approve their list of buyers. We get to approve. So we get to see who are the people they're considering selling to. So they're not going to sell to anybody that has problems in other boroughs. There's a list that they can look up that shows anybody else who's been fined or has problems in other boroughs. So we'll know all that and we can improve all that stuff. And so we, to say that we don't have any control is just not, we have lots of control still. And they want to be good partners. They want this to work too. So this is about turning over and improving properties in our borough and in Allegheny County in general.
Can I make a?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, so what I'm hearing is that these arguments are conjoining poverty levels with blight. And I do not believe that they should be conjoined in this manner. What the land, as Jim has mentioned, and we all know, we have homes that are abandoned, that have large tax liens on them, that are starting to go downhill and are starting or already have reduced the value of the properties around them. And what we are trying to do is to find a way to get, whether we get investors who are flipping, but this whole thing of the land bank being able to get rid of the liens, because most of them sit there because individual buyers can't they have to pay for the back taxes as a starting point, and most of these homes don't have enough value to pay the back taxes and to pay anything, and then improve them. And I think it's really, really critical that we that this community understands that we're trying to take those individual homes that are sitting there, starting to rot and starting to ruin our property values. And there has been nothing that talks about trying to get low income or the buzzword of affordable housing in here. It is about getting quality buyers to improve these homes and to keep the rest of our community's property values up or to raise them because they're already falling down.
I was going to say something very similar. We covered it, a comment about low income housing, because that is not what this is about. This is about the conservatorship, the land bank are about really the same thing. But the conservatorship requires, like Jim said, an enormous amount of borough time, of our staff time, of our public works time that did a lot of that work to clean it out. We don't have the capacity to be doing that all the time, but the land bank got it's a lot of that little office for very little. It is not about the income of who's living there. It is about these homes that we have that are vacant, that are falling into disrepair, and that are incredibly expensive for anybody to buy or flip because not of the state they're in, but because of the debt on them. So conservatorship and the land bank, both are ways to address that. Again, it's about the capacity that we have in the borough, fixing up houses. That's not what borough staff or borough resources can really take on at a large scale. But having a partner with the land bank can help.
I wanted to add one thing too, and that is doing this and getting these houses repaired as quickly as possible is also important because the longer they go, the more likely they are to need to be permanently demoed. And when a house is demoed, they don't get rebuilt. And there's a very simple reason for that. A brand new house costs $250 a square foot to build. Houses in Crafton on average sell for $115 a square foot. So if you're an owner, if you're someone looking and shopping for a house, you're not going to go through the whole process of taking years to build a house that's going to cost you twice as much as a house that's already built. So one of the goals too is getting these as quickly as possible. We have torn down I think we did the numbers, it was in the last 20, in the last 13 years, we've torn down 20 houses, we've built one. That means every time that happens, every time we let a house go a little bit too long and it has to be knocked down, that's tax dollars that are lost. That's families that no longer get to live in Crafton. That is money that doesn't get to be spent. So the more you can stop that from happening, the better off you're going to be.
Anybody else? Richard?
One last time. Richard Dixon, 1761 Crafton Bowl. Goodness.
To the solicitor, thank you for correcting me earlier.
Wasn't a correction, just to clarify.
Yes, sir. Towards Mike, just a simple question. So your 9-step process and breakdown of cost. This is reality, and online speculation doesn't exist. In other words, because I want to make sure that's clear. That the speculation that is out there sitting there of any kickback thing or anything else is untrue and unwarranted to blame anyone. I want to thank you for a nice long process tonight. Something that I benefited as well. And everybody have a great evening.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Yeah, Karen.
Aaron Tom, Park Street. I just was wondering what I was at the meeting, but I don't remember what it's gonna cost. What it will cost the borough for the land bank for each house. Or is it a monthly fee that we'll be paying? I know you can answer after I'm all done. And I just want to say that I agree with Terry on the land bank. And I hope that the council will put more consideration into their choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
So the annual cost of the land bank is last year's prior year taxes, meaning that from taxes that were paid in that were due in 23 but paid in 24, they get 5% of those taxes. For Crafton, over the last 3 years, that number has been $2,600, $2,800, and we assume that number is going to be about $3,000 next year. So less than we have paid Steve for one house, we get the access to land bank. The only time we give any more money to the land bank is after they've sold a house. So if they have bought a house and then sold it, they get 50% of our taxes for the next and the school districts for the next 5 years. So we still get 50% taxes. Right now, we're getting no taxes on the houses. Then we start getting taxes on the houses. In addition, we also will, if someone moves into that house, we get EIT taxes and too, earned income taxes. And then any money that they spend in the borough too, we get taxes off of that. Right now, we're getting nothing from any of those. So yes, and so on $150,000 house, I think it's around on what is it, like $1,200 total tax burden on that approximately. So you get, we're paying them $600 a year. So we might end up paying like $3,000 or $4,000 additional for them to flip that house. But compared to what we're paying and putting at risk on a conservatorship, it's nowhere near what we've already outlaid for this conservatorship. And so it's much cheaper to go through the land bank, and why it's advantageous. They have tools that we just don't have.
Right, can I add to this? Because it reminded me that it is not only this council who has approved the land bank, but the school board as well. We both had to be on board. So it's not that this council has made a quick decision about anything and that it's out of line and out of step with what's beneficial to the school system, because they're going to be in the same position to get even more than us because their millage is so much higher than ours. So it's going to be a great boon when it happens to the school board as well. So it's not just the council here. This is the school board and the council working together and both seeing benefit in doing this.
I think one thing additional to add to that too is I think it's important to know why the school board wanted to do it. And the school board had great support because their solicitor worked just as Steve does. Their solicitor works for school districts that are also in the land bank, and they've seen great success with them being able to turn over properties that have been problem properties for years. It's those middle properties that are very difficult to deal with. And you get to prevent them from being knocked down. And when that solicitor found out that we were interested, he was like, absolutely, you guys should do it. It's good for you. And that takes away, that could potentially take away money from him because he's not the solicitor on these things. He's not taking them to sheriff's sale. And he still thought it was an important thing for people to do. So I think it's important to note that as well.
Right, anyone else? All right, anybody online, please raise your hand. Okay. Seeing none, it is 9:09. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.